Good morning. Today is Saturday, the 11th of February 2017. I'm Ebony Brandon, and this is the SKN News Now Weekend Edition, brought to you by Glimbarrow Pest Control and Guest House. These are our top stories. Nationally, the three men on trial for the Connery drug bust in 2015 have all been found guilty. Regionally, the St. Lucia Chamber of Commerce believes there is more to the IMF 2017 outlook than is being let on. Internationally, a magnitude 6.7 earthquake has killed 6 people and injured more than 100 in the Philippines. And in sport, Australia's wicketkeeper is the latest to suffer game-related head injury. Now for a look at the stories in detail. The High Command of the Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force has issued an official statement expressing disappointment at comments made by opposition parliamentarian Honourable Marcella Liburd at the National Crime Symposium this past Thursday. According to the release, during her remarks, the Honourable member stated, quote, that the police arrested the brother of the former Commissioner of Police and in the official police report referred to the brother of the former Commissioner of Police. I, in all my life, have never seen an official police report when it was relevant to say who the person was connected to, end quote. The High Command's release states that the statement by MP Liburd was untrue and without merit or foundation, as the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force embraces, quote, the highest standard of integrity in its reporting of incidents to the public and exercises great responsibility in ensuring the rights of the accused, victims and families are not infringed upon, end quote. Ms. Liburd, who is accused in the release of leveling a baseless attack on the integrity of the police service, has stated that she is preparing an official response to the Police High Command's accusation against her, which will be released by Monday. On a related note, Deputy Commissioner of Police Hilroy Brandy said he was heartened by the turnout and participation of stakeholders at the National Crime Symposium on Thursday. Deputy Brandy said the stakeholder attendance and participation was encouraging and stated that their presence provided an opportunity to network in the hope of building stronger relationships with the various communities. The Deputy Commissioner of Police added that improving community engagement and involvement is on the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force's priorities for 2017 and pointed out that the symposium provided the perfect opportunity to meet persons who are active in their communities. The Deputy Commissioner said as well that the force is looking forward to the anticipated positive outputs as a result of the symposium. According to a cabinet press briefing statement, 200 people at least were invited to participate in the symposium. According to a release issued by the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, however, 120 people were in attendance. The three men on trial for the October 2015 Connery drug bust have all been found guilty and fined for their involvement in the incident. The accused men were Kenrick Simmons, Tennille Percival, and Antigua and Barbuda national Greg Williamson. Bringing to an end the trial, which first began in November 2016, the men, who were all involved in an attempt to smuggle 124 pounds of marijuana into the country, were found guilty of charges which included possession of a controlled drug, possession with intent to supply a controlled drug, importation of a controlled drug. Kenrick Simmons, the son of the former Prime Minister and only living national hero, Sir Kennedy Simmons, faced additional charges including importation of cannabis and aiding and abetting the two other men on trial. Senior Magistrate Josephine Malalou sentenced Simmons to $300,000 in fines to be paid in 5 months or in default, serve 4 years in prison. Person charged $60,000, which is to be paid in 3 months, in default of which he will spend 4 years in prison. Williamson, who has been on remand since the arrest in 2015, was fined $30,000 or 23 months in prison if he fails to pay. Kenrick Simmons and Tennille Percival were represented by Dr. Henry Brown, Queen's Counsel, while Greg Williamson was represented by former Attorney General Jason Hamilton. Finally, in national developments this morning, the People's Employment Program is set to officially become the Skills Training Empowerment Program, or STEP, come February 16th. Permanent Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for PEP, Mr. Osbert D'Souza, has been meeting with officials from PEP, representative from the National Skills Training Program, and representatives from the Technical Vocational Education and Training Institute Secretariat, who are all involved in the planning process for the inauguration of the new program STEP. In August 2016, at a sitting of the National Assembly, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris explained that in keeping with the Team Unity Administration's prosperity agenda, the PEP will be ameliorated. According to the Prime Minister at the time, the government was seeking to reorganize, restructure, reposition the PEP program into a genuine skills training and empowerment program. Participants of the STEP will receive short-term formal training in areas where there is an insufficiency of adequate entry-level and skill-level 2 skills competencies to meet market demands, especially in the area of tourism, hospitality and construction. Additionally, the Prime Minister indicated that the new program will offer short-term job attachment or apprenticeships where persons will be given a period to learn through hands-on approaches, while stressing that soft skills, behavior, conduct, and values for sustainable living will be underscored. It was also identified that STEP will articulate with other programs supervised with a national training institute. The launch of STEP will take place at the Circus at 4:30 p.m. on February 16th. In regional developments, the St. Lucia Chamber of Commerce has suggested that the 2017 International Monetary Fund conclusions on the economy and calling for tighter fiscal reform may not be telling the entire story. The Chamber has called for greater fiscal consideration by domestic economic authorities.
It was a civil DSH meeting in the Viewfort community on Wednesday, February 8th. Members of the business community gathered to hear from officials of Invest St. Lucia on the $2.6 billion deal. The deal is the first major investment signed by the Alan Chasney administration since taking up office in June 2016 and has been controversial from the time it was unveiled. With so much back and forth on the deal and many lingering questions, the government of St. Lucia has embarked on a series of public consultations to address the issue. The goal of the meetings is clear, but for Leroy James, the latest gathering did nothing to answer his many burning questions on the DSH deal.
Because I hear a lot of things outside there, a lot of news out there, and whatever I'm hearing is very confusing. So today I thought we would have heard something that would put the record straight, but it's not coming from the table.
Cynthia Joseph says the presenters sought to lay down the timeline for various components of the project. She says the meeting will be useful in helping people to come to their own conclusions about the investment.
Now I have actually understood what aspects of the project will be undertaken in the first phase, in the second phase, in the third phase, and I appreciate. So as the consultations go along, I will be happy and I will be able to decide for myself where this project stands as it relates to Viewfort.
Chamber officials say with the myriad of issues surrounding the DSH deal, it was important for members of the business community to air their concerns and have their questions answered.
I'm trying to better understand what are the concerns, what are the opportunities, what are the threats, and how these are going to be dealt with. We hope that this is just one in a series of encounters and dialogues on the subject so that everyone could better understand what is happening and they could see what role and what benefits they may derive and what are the concerns with this program.
Community meetings will continue with various target groups. The public information campaign has included sit-downs with heads of town councils and planned meetings with youth-based organizations.
The Association of Caribbean States has paid tribute to the late Cuban president Fidel Castro and the role he played in changing the face of the Caribbean.
The Association of Caribbean States has paid tribute to the late Cuban President Fidel Castro. On Thursday evening at the ACS Secretariat, Secretary General Dr. June Suma said Caribbean people and the wider diaspora must educate themselves on their history to confront a changing world with new leaders and policies that will directly affect the Caribbean. She said the legacy of the towering historical figure, Fidel Castro, showed the region how a culture of educating oneself and rallying to a cause of challenging the status quo and of fearlessly pushing the boundaries could literally revolutionize reality and forge our own destinies on our own terms. She said the story of liberation struggles like the Haitian Revolution have brought our Caribbean civilization to this point in history and must be passed on to future generations.
In international developments today, the strongest earthquake to hit the Philippines in over 100 years has killed at least 6 people and left more than 100 injured.
A 6.7 earthquake has hit the Philippines island of Mindanao, killing at least 6 people and injuring over 117 seriously. The tremor's epicenter at a depth of 10 kilometers was just to the east of the city of Surigao. It's the Philippines' strongest earthquake since 1879, although the archipelago's location on the Pacific Ring of Fire means it has frequent tremors. Friday night's quake has triggered dozens of aftershocks. No tsunami warning's been issued, but there has been extensive damage to power lines and water supplies. A bridge and hotel collapsed, and many buildings have been damaged. My family and I were already sleeping inside our house when at around 10 p.m. everything just shook. It was really strong. Many people spent the night in open spaces like parks and sheltered areas, and Surigao's airport has been closed after cracks appeared in the runway.
French far-right presidential candidate Marine Le Pen is suing top European Union officials over demands from the European Parliament that she repay nearly 320,000 euros it says her party misspent. Elena Casas reports from Brussels.
Members of the European Parliament, like Marine Le Pen, are given an allowance by the EU to spend on office staff, but they can't use it for domestic political campaigning. The European Parliament says Marine Le Pen used that money to pay staff who worked for her party in France, including her personal bodyguard. Transparency campaigners say her party isn't the only one.
What's happening is that there are Eurosceptic parties that are misusing EU funds, allegedly, to fund their Eurosceptic agendas back home. And I think that that's probably why, one of the reasons why it's gotten so much attention is having this delicious irony pointed out.
Le Pen says that if she wins May's election, she'll hold a referendum aiming to see France follow the UK out of the European Union.
Our British friends' vote in favour of leaving the European Union is by far the most important political event to take place in our continent since the fall of the Berlin Wall.
But the EU says her party has benefited from at least $500,000 of its money. The deadline to repay the first $320,000 was the 1st of February. Le Pen has refused and is now suing the Parliament. She says the accusation is a political conspiracy against her. Analysts say her legal problems have yet to have much impact on her support base back home in France.
The question of improperly employed parliamentary assistants is a never-ending story. It was dug up by journalists at Le Mans newspaper before the 2015 regional elections, and that didn't stop her from getting great results, 28.5%.
The European Parliament is now withholding Le Pen's allowance and half of her MEP's salary until she pays.
The EU can't take Marine Le Pen to court over this itself, but prosecutors in Paris opened a case against her in December for fraud and the illegal financing of a political party. That could eventually carry a jail sentence and a disqualification from politics, but it's very unlikely she'll be charged before Election Day in May.
Turning now to sport this hour, Australian wicketkeeper Sam Harper was taken to hospital overnight after being struck on the head by a bat during a Sheffield Shield match. The Victoria player, 20, needed medical treatment after he was caught by the follow-through of a short-form South Australia batsman Jake Lehman. Harper, who was wearing a helmet, later had a brain scan in hospital. Bleeding or bone damage were not identified, according to a Cricket Victoria statement. Harper will take no for the part in the match at the Adelaide Oval. In January, Melbourne Renegades wicketkeeper Peter Neville was ruled out of the Big Bash tournament after he suffered a burst blood vessel when he was hit by a flying bat during his side's win over Adelaide Strikers. Concussion in cricket and the use of the bouncer have been under increased scrutiny since November 2014, when Australia Test batsman Philip Hughes died after being struck on the top of the neck by a ball while batting for South Australia during a Sheffield Shield game against New South Wales. While manufacturers have added extra protection to the back of helmets following Hughes' death, Cricket Australia ruled that helmets should be compulsory for batsmen facing fast and medium-paced bowling, while the England and Wales Cricket Board made a similar ruling in 2015. And that item brings to an end the KyssFM SKN News Now Weekend Edition, brought to you by Glimbarrow Pest Control and Guest House. I'm Ebony Brandon on behalf of the entire team here, wishing you a very pleasant weekend and inviting you to tune in tomorrow for the Week at a Glance at 1 p.m. with a rebroadcast at 6 p.m. Goodbye.